This originally broke from some sort of leaker, Nexus Point News. They leaked a pretty big story spoiler, actually. And it's interesting, too, when it comes to spoilers. I think there should be a balance. I think there's a way that you can strike a balance between not spoiling things for new fans, while fans that are already in the know can still figure out what's going on. So I think the reveal of Jason Momoa's return as Duncan, Idaho actually could have been handled better, but it happened the way it happened. I mean, already in Dune Part 2's press, it was being spoiled that Timothée Chalamet, I think he was talking with the guy from the Happy, Sad, Confused podcast, because he was missing Duncan, Idaho. I was like, oh, I miss him in this. And he's like, oh, well, he'll be back. But I think even if the production were to have confirmed officially, which I think they should have done, instead of just letting this stuff be leaked by whoever, I just think that Legendary and Warner Brothers should get a better handle on this, on how information is given to the press and disseminated to everyone. So I think there should have been an official statement anyways, saying that Jason Momoa will return, and just leave it at that. And if anyone wanted to know more, I mean, other people could have, obviously, if they're already Dune fans, and me as well, would have dived into it. But as far as the general public goes, you could have just stated that Jason Momoa will return, and people could have just assumed that it was in a vision. But saying that he came back as a clone was, all right, well, yeah, it's kind of a spoiler. The way that Frank Herbert wrote it, I mean, it's a pretty early on reveal, and his style of storytelling doesn't really rely on the shock and awe of that. It's about the journey, not so much the revelations like that. So you'll find out pretty early how he returns. So it's not a huge spoiler, but this is a pretty big spoiler, actually, to reveal or to have this let out into the press that the twin children of Paul and Chani, as teenagers, will be in Dune 3. And this just opens up a whole can of worms. Like, what are they doing? Are they doing a hybrid of Dune Messiah and Children of Dune? Something that Denis Villeneuve has constantly stated he has no interest in doing anything past Dune Messiah. But he has said that I'm not closing the door. I will make sure that the seeds are there. I mean, the seeds are already in the source material itself, because Frank Herbert constructed those first 3 books. They're one story to him. That's how the story flowed in its themes and its structure. So the seeds are there to pave the way for Children of Dune already. But it seems that he wants to take it a step further and show them in their teenage forms, which could either be a time jump or a vision. But the story spoiler here is that Paul and Chani have children. And if you're unaware of the story, that's kind of a big deal. If you haven't read the books, well, you know what happens now. You know what happens before we even start filming, because Dune Part 2 leaves it on a bit of a cliffhanger when it comes to Paul and Chani's relationship. She's seen just storming out into the desert, and that's where it ends. Very contrary to the source material in terms of their relationship. So the fact that they're just putting this out there, they let this be leaked. I really wish the Legendary and Warner Brothers were keeping a better handle on this and being very careful in how information is revealed. It seems that they just really didn't care this time around. Whereas previously they had somewhat of a better lid on things, but they seemed that they were more careful in what information they revealed and when and how they revealed it. But now it seems that they just don't care. They're just whatever is what it is. And if you didn't read the books, well, it's not their fault. But I just thought that the production would have a better lid on this, because this is an actual point in the story, as opposed to Jason Momoa's return or Duncan Idaho's return, which happens very early on. So I was saying before that new audiences could have assumed that it was a vision, but the fact that they did say he's coming back as a clone. But even then, it's an early reveal, and there's just so much more to the story than how he returns. What his journey is the most interesting thing and the most exciting in terms of the revelations and drama that occurs. So there's still a lot that you don't know, but this is a huge story point that they just decided to leave out there. So let me know what you think of this odd way that I guess Denis Villeneuve and Legendary and Warner Brothers are handling this marketing and media campaign so far. They really aren't doing anything yet, but they're just allowing this information to just run rampant. And I just want to know little things that they just aren't bothering to confirm. They're just kind of letting a free-for-all, like the Wild West out here in terms of what's going on with this production. I wish that they would just take the reins and officially state things. And if they do that, then they can keep a better handle on how information is conveyed to the public. It really just gives the sense that they don't care. I hope I'm wrong, but this is a huge deal. This is a huge story point. And especially for those that aren't familiar with Dune, Messiah. But when they saw the film, I bet they're confused as to Chani, how she was presented in the film is completely fine with turning her sandworm right around, going back to the palace and happy as a clam to bear Paul's children. That character that we saw in Dune Part 2, I don't think matches up. At least that's what I think. The audiences that really liked how her character was portrayed, I think it's going to confuse them. And I mean, it's good for book fans in a way, because that was something we were concerned about. How was Chani going to be portrayed in this? Is she going to return to Paul? Are they going to have that loving relationship that they do in the book that will lead to their offspring being born? And you can't not have it because it's how the saga continues. So yeah, a lot of people that were for the change, I'm sure we're confused, or some people that didn't know anything about it must be confused now, because it just basically confirms that Paul and Chani will be together and they will have children, and they're going to look in their teenage years at some point. So whether or not they're going to jump forward in time or is going to present it in a vision, I think the only way it would make sense would be as a prescient vision. But regardless, when it comes to Paul and Chani's relationship, at least book fans will know for sure that they do end up together, that they do return to each other and make amends to some point and have their children. There is definitely some concerns as to how this is going to be handled in a way that's organic to how they've portrayed the character, but also in a way that still stays faithful to how the story progresses in the book. And for a lot of people, it just seems that it's kind of impossible, that you kind of have to choose a way. But if we know that they're going to have children, some people are just having the theory that this story is going to be completely different, that the adaptation is going to be a complete hybrid of Children of Dune and Messiah. Basically, it will just be unrecognizable from the source material, because we really just don't know or have any source of confidence that Denis is going to faithfully adapt the relationship of Paul and Chani, because he's taken such drastic measures already with the character and their relationship. So it becomes just really hard for fans to have any sort of optimism when it comes to how the family dynamics will work out. We'll see how it goes for the next installment. But just one more quick thought about the twins casting. The original report from Nexus Point News did say that they weren't sure how the time jump was going to be handled. So it did kind of leave it open. They're saying the words time jump, but it still could be within the confines of a vision of the future. They weren't sure about that part of the rumor. So all they knew is that these people were being cast for the older twins, Leto II and Ganima. But as far as anything else, they couldn't be sure about that. But they were saying some sort of time jump. So it could easily be Paul's vision of the future, where he sees his children and he sees that there's a path forward that will have to continue without his involvement. Final word on the casting, though, I'm perfectly fine with Ida Brooks. She has a resume, so that's good, and I think she'd be perfectly fine. But I am very worried about the fact that they took someone who had absolutely no experience, no commercials, no appearances as an extra, nothing under his belt before this casting. I would like to trust Denis, but my trust is very shaky in that regard. I really don't trust him. He's broken promises before. He's said things and promised things that he said he was going to do and hasn't. So I don't really have any basis for trust, just cautious optimism at this point. So I just hope this is a glorified perfume ad, like in Dune Part 1 when we were seeing visions of Chani. That's what I hope this is. That's what I hope this comes down to, because I can't really see it anymore. I mean, this is such a complex character. I can't see them jumping into the future. And for such a huge role, such a complicated role in terms of Nakoa Wolf Momoa, his first job ever playing Leto II, the God Emperor, I really can't see it being more as just pretty faces. So similar to how Chani was portrayed in Dune Part 1, which a lot of people saw the visions of Chani as just that giant perfume ad. That's what I hope it will be. And honestly, it's the only thing that makes sense. I just think that if it was going to be something any more significant than a no dialogue perfume ad vision, I think there would be more care and at least some sort of audition process to cast Leto II. But it seems that it just was whoever looks like they could pass for Paul and Chani's son is what they went with.